There is a man, 63 years old, sitting quietly on a wooden bench in a park in the city of Zik. The air is heavy with the scent of autumn, and the trees release their leaves one by one, as if nature itself were engaged in a slow ritual of letting go. He watches them fall, drifting gently, carried by the breeze until they finally touch the ground. His gaze follows their movement, but his mind is not wandering to the world of obligations or responsibilities. He is not thinking about the work he has left unfinished, the letters he never answered, or the projects that lie waiting on his desk. Not even the question of what he will eat for dinner that evening crosses his mind. For the first time in decades, he is completely, almost shockingly, present. That man is Carl Jung, and in that precise moment, he discovered something that would forever change his understanding of what it truly means to live fully. The revelation that came to him on that autumn day in 1938 may sound unsettling to anyone who feels trapped in the rhythm of modern life. Jung realized that he had spent most of his adult years unable to genuinely experience the present moment. Despite being considered one of the brightest minds of his generation, a pioneering psychologist whose theories reshaped the way we think about the human psyche, he himself had been psychologically absent from the very life he was living. But what disturbed him most was not his personal struggle. It was the recognition that this absence from the present was not an individual flaw, but rather the inevitable outcome of a process that touches every human being as they mature. Jung understood that this was not just about him. It was about all of us. And what he uncovered afterward was not only profound, but also a secret that remains hidden from most adults even today. A secret that has the power to transform how we relate to every passing moment of our lives. His observation revealed a paradox in human experience that still unsettles us. The more wisdom we gather, the further we seem to drift away from our natural ability to be fully present. Children, Jung noticed, possess something that adults lose, and then spend years trying to recover through therapy, meditation, or spiritual practice. They live entirely in the immediacy of experience. They taste without comparing, they play without anticipating, they feel without explaining. How could it be, Jung wondered, that by gaining experience, we lose the most fundamental skill of all, the ability to enjoy life as it is happening? He concluded that during the process of maturation, we develop what he called the projective mind. This psychological function constantly pulls us forward into the future or traps us in memories of the past. It is not a defect. In fact, it is precisely this capacity that enables us to plan, to build civilizations, to learn from mistakes, to imagine possibilities. It is the very foundation of our progress as human beings. But the problem emerges when this useful function becomes the only way we know how to exist. Reflect on your own daily experience. How many moments pass in which your mind is fully absorbed in the present, uncolored by anticipation or memory? When was the last time you ate a meal without thinking of something else, without scrolling through your phone, without remembering yesterday's conversation, without worrying about tomorrow's meeting? When was the last time you walked simply to feel the rhythm of your steps, or spoke to someone without secretly preparing your next reply? For most of us, this direct contact with what Jung called the eternal moment has been almost entirely lost. It is a state of consciousness in which time itself seems to pause, where experience feels whole, satisfying, and alive. Jung was not content with merely diagnosing the problem. For the last 20 years of his life, he devoted himself to finding a way back, to developing a method for recovering the lost ability to dwell fully in the present. And the path began with a simple but piercing observation. The people who had lived the longest, who had accumulated the most wisdom, were often the least capable of feeling immediate satisfaction. Something in the very act of growing older seemed to rob them of their joy. In his therapy sessions, he began to notice a striking pattern. Younger patients came to him with concrete problems, conflicts with colleagues, difficult decisions, complicated romances. Their concerns were immediate, pressing, often urgent. But his older patients, those in middle age and beyond, came with something else entirely, a haunting sense of emptiness, a feeling that life was slipping through their fingers, that no matter what they achieved or acquired, they could not be fully satisfied with the present. One woman of 52 years told him, "It is as if I live constantly in between what has already happened and what is still to come. The present feels like a waiting room where the train I need to board never arrives." Her metaphor captured perfectly what Jung himself had been sensing. As we age, our relationship with time becomes distorted. We stop inhabiting moments directly, and instead, we live in interpretations of them. Jung identified 3 specific psychological mechanisms at work in the mature mind. The first he called the comparative archive. Each new experience is instantly filtered through the memory of past experiences. Instead of living it freshly, we categorize it, we compare it, we evaluate it according to what we already know. The second is the future project. Rather than experiencing things for what they are, we experience them as steps within a sequence leading towards some future goal. Even pleasures become instrumental. A walk becomes exercise, a meal becomes fuel, a conversation becomes networking. The moment itself vanishes in the shadow of what it leads to. The third mechanism he named interpretive vigilance. It is the voice in our heads that narrates, analyzes, contextualizes everything as it happens. It keeps us safe, yes, but it also blocks us from immersion. Instead of tasting the apple, we describe the apple to ourselves. Instead of being in love, we analyze whether we are in love. Together, these mechanisms create what Jung called the temporal cage of adult consciousness. We live displaced from our own present, always standing slightly outside of life. But Jung realized something even more disturbing. This displacement does not simply rob us of enjoyment. It distorts our entire perception of reality. We are no longer living life itself, but a version of life that has been filtered, processed, and projected. Think of how often this has already happened to you. His most revolutionary realization came when he saw that what we often call wisdom may actually be the very thing preventing us from living fully. We assume that accumulated experience improves the quality of life. But Jung observed the opposite. His most knowledgeable patients, those with decades of achievement, profound understanding, and refined analysis, were often the least able to feel genuine wonder. One successful man in his 60s could explain in great detail why a sunset was beautiful: the science of light, the physics of color, the psychology of perception, but he had lost the capacity to be moved by it. As Jung wrote in his private journals, experience can become a more sophisticated prison than ignorance. This led him to investigate what he later called the tyranny of previous experience. He discovered that the mature mind builds automatic patterns that act as filters between us and reality. We live through what he called second-hand experiences. When you meet someone new, do you really meet them, or do you unconsciously place them into categories shaped by others you have known before? When you taste new food, do you savor it, or do you compare it to past meals? The deepest consequences of this problem appear in our closest relationships. Jung noticed that people with the most relational experience often had the most superficial relationships. They had developed such refined patterns of interpretation and prediction that they no longer truly met the people around them. One patient confessed, "My wife has become a set of patterns I recognize rather than a person I discover anew each day." And this dynamic extends inward, into the relationship we have with ourselves. Mature self-awareness, while valuable for growth, can also become a barrier. We turn into spectators of our own lives rather than participants. We analyze our feelings instead of feeling them. We watch ourselves thinking, but we forget to simply live. Jung realized that maturity carries a hidden cost. We gain analysis, prediction, and control, but we lose awe, spontaneity, and presence. The challenge, he concluded, was not to return to the innocence of childhood, but to integrate accumulated wisdom with the ability to live directly in the now. His moment of greatest clarity arrived during what he later called the stone experiment. For months, he spent his afternoons stacking stones on his property, building a small tower without any specific purpose. He worked with his hands, arranging and balancing each rock, driven not by goals, but by the sheer pleasure of the process. One afternoon, as he placed one stone carefully upon another, he realized that for the first time in years, his mind was empty. He was not planning, not remembering, not narrating. He was simply feeling the weight of the stone, the roughness of its texture, the balance of the moment. It was like waking from a long dream, he wrote. I realized I had been living in my head for decades, while real life was happening in my hands, in my body, in the immediacy of the moment. This experience led him to a completely new understanding. The secret to truly enjoying every moment after maturity does not lie in silencing the weight of our accumulated experience, but rather in learning to inhabit it differently. Jung discovered that there is a particular form of awareness that allows us to integrate the wisdom of the past with the immediacy of the present. He called it integrated awareness, a state where the experienced mind does not dominate the moment, but enriches it without overwhelming it. The key is to recognize that we have two fundamentally different ways of knowing: cumulative knowledge and present knowledge. Cumulative knowledge is built through experiences, patterns, comparisons, and predictions. Present knowledge emerges when we encounter what is happening directly, right now. Most adults, after years of growth, have developed their cumulative knowledge so strongly that their ability to be present has weakened. But Jung found that it is possible to cultivate both simultaneously, without one suppressing the other. His deepest revelation was this: accumulated experience does not have to become a barrier to the present. Instead, it can act as a lens that enriches immediate experience without distorting it. Imagine the difference between looking at a sunset through a microscope and looking at it with eyes that have witnessed thousands of sunsets yet still retain the capacity for wonder. The microscope distorts. Experienced yet present eyes enrich the vision without stealing its immediacy. Jung even developed specific practices to cultivate this integrated awareness. He noticed that whenever he activated this state, every moment naturally felt more fulfilling. Not because he ignored his past experiences, but because he had learned to hold them in a way that served the present rather than suffocated it. For him, a wise adult was not someone who had accumulated more experiences, but someone who had learned to carry them without losing the ability to keep experiencing. He went beyond theory and created a practical method that he called the protocol of integrated presence. This method began with the recognition that one cannot simply decide to be present. Specific conditions must be created for integrated awareness to arise. The first phase was recognition of patterns. For 1 week, he suggested observing when the mind automatically categorized, compared, or projected during daily experiences. The goal was not to change anything, but to build awareness of how often the mind leaned on automatic processes. The practice was simple: to internally note, "Now I am comparing," or "Now I am projecting," or "Now I am interpreting." It was not about judgment, but awareness. The second phase was sensory anchors. Jung described them as points of sensory return, elements of immediate experience that could be used as anchors to return to presence. This could be the feeling of air on the skin, the weight of the body against a chair, or the rhythm of breathing. The anchors had to be simple, always available, and requiring direct attention rather than interpretation. Whenever the mind slipped into automatic patterns, one could return to these anchors gently. The third phase was conscious integration. Instead of trying to suppress accumulated knowledge, the task was to hold it more flexibly. When a comparison or interpretation arose, it was to be kept in the background while maintaining primary attention on the immediate experience. Jung compared it to listening to music while having a conversation. The music enriches the atmosphere without dominating attention. Likewise, accumulated experience could enrich the present without overpowering it. The fourth phase was the practice of complete moments. Jung encouraged simple exercises: drinking a cup of coffee, walking to the corner, or listening to a song all the way through. In these activities, the challenge was to let accumulated experience serve the moment instead of dominating it. The aim was not to force presence, but to practice letting the present be informed, not imprisoned, by the past. Jung also acknowledged the real challenges of this process. Decades of automatic patterns do not transform easily. He expected resistance, frustration, and even moments when the method seemed to fail. But he saw these difficulties as part of the process, not as signs of failure. With time, persistence, and patience, he discovered that this approach did more than bring presence. It fundamentally transformed the quality of everyday life. Before practicing integrated awareness, Jung described his existence as living in delay, constantly in the interval between experiences. Conversations became rehearsals for future ones. Meals turned into fuel for what came next. Even pleasures were filtered through the thought, "This should make me happy," or "I must remember this later." Life had become a series of stored experiences rather than lived ones. He realized he had been a librarian of his own life, cataloging, referencing, and organizing, but rarely reading the book itself. After months of practice, he began to experience what he called moments of complete reality, instances where accumulated experience enriched the present without suffocating it. A conversation with a friend was fulfilling in itself, not just a bridge to something else. A meal became a genuine encounter with flavors and textures shaped by his past, but not imprisoned by it. He wrote in his diary, "It is as if I had been living in a translation of my life, and now I have finally found the original text." The most remarkable part of this transformation was that he did not lose his ability to plan, analyze, or learn from past experience. Instead, these became conscious tools rather than automatic reflexes that ruled over him. He noticed that his relationship with time itself had changed. Moments no longer felt scarce or fleeting. When he was present, each moment carried a fullness that made time feel abundant instead of limited. Paradoxically, he wrote, "When I stopped trying to capture time, I discovered that I had all the time in the world." The impact on his relationships was profound. By learning to hold his accumulated relational experiences without letting them dominate, he rediscovered the people around him. His wife, colleagues, and even acquaintances became less predictable, more alive, and more surprising. His wife once remarked, "It feels like you are seeing me for the first time in years, even though you know me better than ever." People noticed the difference, and so did he. Jung spent the final 20 years of his life refining and sharing this discovery. What began as a personal realization about the loss of presence evolved into a deep insight into the nature of mature consciousness. His conclusion was both simple and profound. Maturity does not mean losing immediacy. We can be both wise and innocent, experienced yet open to wonder, knowledgeable and still discovering. The secret he discovered that day in the park was not a complicated technique or elaborate philosophy, but a fundamental understanding of how to carry accumulated experience, not as a prison separating us from life, but as a tool that enriches each moment without taking it over. In his final notes, Jung wrote, "The art of living after maturity consists in learning to be both the most experienced student and the most authentic beginner in every moment of our existence." This transformation does not happen automatically with age. It requires conscious practice, patience with ourselves, and the willingness to question mental habits we have developed over decades. But the reward, the recovery of our natural capacity to enjoy each moment, is worth every effort. True wisdom, Jung believed, is not about gathering more experiences, but about learning to carry the ones we already have in a way that serves life rather than limits it. And if this discovery resonates with you, if you recognize that subtle but persistent disconnection from the present in your own life, perhaps this is the moment to begin your own experiment with integrated awareness. You do not need to retreat to a distant place or wait for a perfect setting. You can begin right now with the very next moment you live, practicing how to let your accumulated experience enrich the present without dominating it. Now tell me, in which moments of your own life have you most clearly noticed the tension between accumulated experience and the capacity to fully enjoy the present? If this video has stirred something deep within you, if you have felt that unsettling recognition that always comes when truth strikes the core of your being, then you are ready to take the next step on this journey toward individuation. What you have felt is not random. It is the call of your own soul, reminding you that the time has come to awaken to who you truly are. This space is not about easy answers or superficial promises. It is about the raw and authentic process of transformation. Every week, we open a door into the hidden depths of the human psyche, into the places where light and shadow meet, and where your true power is waiting to be remembered. Here, you will not find shallow, self-help formulas that promise quick results, but the alchemical gold of real inner change. Because in a world where so many hide behind masks, only the one who dares to see their true face becomes sovereign over their own destiny. To walk this path is to face yourself without excuses, to embrace your shadow, and to integrate every fragment of who you are. It is not the easy road, but it is the only one that leads to wholeness. So, if you feel the call, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, activate the notification bell, and allow these teachings to be a steady companion on your path. Share this wisdom with those who are brave enough to confront their own darkness, because only the courageous can uncover the light hidden behind it. The truth has always been waiting for you, but only you can decide whether you are worthy of it. And remember, the one who dares to look into the abyss of their own soul will discover that the abyss was never emptiness, but the mirror of their true self. Imagine this for a moment. Since you were a child, you were told that in order to be loved, to fit in, to be valued by others, you had to give something up. Maybe they taught you to keep quiet, to hide your opinions so you wouldn't make waves. Maybe you were taught to prioritize other people's needs over your own, or worse, to bury who you really are just to be accepted. Sound familiar? Stay with me, because today we're going to break that belief once and for all. We're not just going to question it. We're going to dismantle it entirely using the revolutionary ideas of Carl Jung, a man who discovered that true love for yourself and for others does not require losing yourself in the process. So take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear could completely shift the way you see your relationships, your life, and more importantly, yourself. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, didn't come to give us feel-good phrases or simple rules to hang on our walls. He dove into the deepest corners of the human soul and uncovered something that's been hidden from us for far too long. Real love, the kind that truly matters, begins inside of you. It's not something you have to beg for. It's not something you have to bargain for. And it's definitely not something you need to sacrifice your essence to receive. But here's the problem. Most of us grew up with a distorted idea of what love actually is. How many times have you felt like in order to be loved, you had to be less yourself? That you had to dim your light, shrink your dreams, or put up with things that hurt you deeply just to keep the peace? If that resonates with you, you're not alone. I've felt it too. And right now, millions of people around the world are trapped in that same illusion. But there's hope, because Jung offers us a way out. He believed that within each of us lies an entire universe, an inner world full of wisdom, insights, and truths that we've been trained to ignore. And do you know why we ignore it? Because from a very young age, we've been programmed to look outside ourselves for approval. We've been told, be good, don't be too loud, don't take up too much space, don't ask for too much. And little by little, without even realizing it, we start to believe that our worth is tied to how others see us. But Jung interrupts that thought. He says, stop, look inside. That's where the key is. And today, we're going to explore that key together, step by step, so you never again feel like you have to give up who you are in order to be loved. Think about this. Have you ever been in a relationship, maybe with a friend, a partner, or even a family member, where you felt like you were constantly walking on eggshells, where every word you said, every move you made, was carefully calculated just to avoid conflict, just to avoid losing that person? And then at the end of the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and wonder, where am I in all of this? That feeling, Jung would say, is not random. It's your unconscious mind screaming at you, pounding at the door of your soul, saying, wake up, this is not love, this is a cage. Because real love, the kind Jung championed, does not trap you. It doesn't ask you to become smaller. On the contrary, It lifts you up. It pushes you to be more of yourself, to shine brighter, to expand. So stop for a moment, take a breath. What did you feel when you heard that? Did it stir something deep inside you? Maybe a memory, a current relationship, or even a decision you've been avoiding? Hold on to that feeling, because we're going even deeper. Jung discovered something profound. He called it the shadow. And what is the shadow? It's that part of you that you hide, the part you repress, the side of you that you've been told is unacceptable. It could be your anger, your wildest desires, your need to set boundaries, or even your fear of not being enough. And here's the twist. The more you try to ignore your shadow in order to be accepted by others, the more power it gains over your life. Picture this. You're in a relationship where you always say yes, even when every fiber of your being wants to scream no. You silence your voice because you don't want to argue. You sacrifice over and over again, thinking that maybe this way they'll love you more. But deep down, what happens? You feel empty. You feel drained. Jung taught us that recognizing this truth is the very first step towards setting ourselves free. And today, in this video, we're not only going to recognize it, we're going to shatter the illusion that love must come with suffering. We're going to challenge the long-standing belief that love necessarily involves sacrifice. Instead, we'll create something new, something real, grounded in what Jung called individuation, the profound psychological and spiritual process of becoming your truest self, stripped of all masks, free from excuses, no longer tied to the need to please others at the cost of your own essence. Now imagine yourself standing before a mirror, but not the mirror in your bathroom. I'm talking about the mirror of your soul, the one that doesn't show your face, but your truth. What do you see? Do you see someone who truly loves themselves? Someone who respects their own boundaries and honors their own needs without guilt? Or do you see someone who has lost themselves in the endless effort to be everything for everyone, except for themselves? Jung would tell you that the image you're seeing isn't set in stone. That reflection is fluid. It can evolve. It can transform. But to change it, you must begin to listen to a voice that has long been silenced. Your inner voice. That subtle whisper that speaks up when something feels wrong. When a relationship leaves you drained instead of nourished. When your actions betray the essence of who you truly are. And let's be honest, this path isn't easy. Letting go of the belief that you must give up parts of yourself in order to be loved is one of the most radical and terrifying acts of self-liberation. It goes against almost everything we've been taught. We've been conditioned to believe that love means putting others first, even when it breaks us. That love means endurance, tolerance, sacrifice, often at the expense of our own well-being. But here's where the brilliance of Jung shines through. He didn't preach the destruction of the self. On the contrary, he believed in rediscovery. He believed in wholeness. He believed in embracing all of who we are, our light and our shadow, our joy and our wounds. He believed in reclaiming our humanity. And within that humanity lies a powerful truth. You do not have to change who you are in order to be worthy of love. Because the kind of love Jung invites us to seek is not the kind that asks us to shrink. It's not the kind that demands we break ourselves just to fit into someone else's expectations. It's the kind of love that sees you, holds you, and amplifies who you are. A love that doesn't drain you, but fills you. That doesn't shame you, but accepts you. That doesn't ask you to sacrifice your soul, but celebrates it. So let's take a breath together. Just pause. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the weight of what we've just uncovered. Because this isn't just a video. This is a conversation, a moment between you and me. And I want to invite you to make yourself a promise. From this day forward, you will begin to question. Gently, but honestly, every time you feel like you have to give something up, just to be loved, you will pause, breathe, and ask, why do I feel like I must lose myself to be wanted? Because what's coming next is even more revealing. We're going to dive deeper into your relationships. Yes, those relationships. The ones that keep you up at night. The ones that leave you feeling uncertain, unworthy, or exhausted. And we're going to see how, according to Jung, every one of those relationships is a mirror. Not of who the other person is, but of what is happening within you. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is stirring. Something is ready to awaken. In the first part, we began to dismantle the toxic belief that love equals suffering. Now, we go even further. Now, we enter the raw, vulnerable world of your inner landscape. Jung had a fascinating and powerful idea. Everything you experience in the outer world, the people you attract, the conflicts you find yourself in, the love you seek or receive, is ultimately a projection of your inner world. Think about that for a moment. It means that if your relationships are chaotic, if you feel constantly drained, if you keep telling yourself, I'm not enough, then the issue isn't just them. It's not just the other person. There is something within you, often buried in the unconscious, that is crying out to be acknowledged. And this is where Jung's true genius becomes clear. He didn't ask us to drown in guilt. He didn't want us to get stuck in blame or self-pity. He gave us a flashlight, a way to illuminate the shadowy corners of our psyche so that we could finally see what's hiding there and transform it. Let's do an exercise right now. Think of someone in your life, a partner, a friend, a family member, with whom you feel like you're always giving more than you receive. Someone who leaves you feeling depleted. Maybe it's someone who makes you feel like you're never enough, or someone who only shows up when they need something from you. Do you have that person in mind? Now ask yourself, deeply and honestly, why do I keep allowing this? What part of me believes that this is what I deserve? Because Jung would tell you, this person is not in your life by coincidence. This relationship, however painful, is a message from your unconscious, an invitation to finally look at what you've been trying to avoid. Here comes the hard truth. Many of us sacrifice our peace, our energy, even our identity, because deep down, we believe we don't deserve better. We've been fed a lie, a dangerous one. That love is supposed to hurt. That struggle is a sign of devotion. That if we feel tired, it's because we're doing love the right way. But Jung pulls us out of that trap. He tells us, true love, beginning with self-love, does not exhaust you. It does not ask you to dim your light. It doesn't demand that you shrink. Real love, instead, helps you grow. It energizes you. It makes you feel more alive, more connected, more whole. So ask yourself again, why am I still holding on to something that makes me feel empty? Why am I afraid to let go of the love that dims me instead of fuels me? You don't have to keep living this way. You don't have to keep repeating these same cycles. There is another way. And Jung showed us that path, not by giving us easy answers, but by inviting us to explore the truth of who we are, underneath all the roles we've been taught to play. Carl Jung teaches us that much of our suffering arises from a deep, often unconscious conflict within ourselves. a conflict that exists because we have not yet integrated our shadow. And this shadow is not just the dark parts we try to hide from the world. No, it's also the beautiful, powerful aspects of ourselves that we've been too afraid to claim. It's your strength, your ability to say no, your right to set boundaries and demand respect. But when you live to please others, when you betray your own essence just to be accepted or loved, you're sending a very clear message to your unconscious mind. I'm not enough just the way I am. And here's the thing, your unconscious, which functions like a loyal child, believes you. It takes your message to heart and begins attracting people and experiences that confirm that belief. Do you see the cycle? Now imagine this. You are walking through a dense forest. In front of you, the path splits into two. One road is wide and crowded with people. It's noisy, familiar, and seemingly safe. But deep down, you know that choosing it means conforming to others' expectations. It means sacrificing yourself once again. The other path is narrow, dark, and quiet. It feels eerie, even scary. And yet, something in your soul whispers that this is where you might finally find yourself. Which path would you take? Most of us, out of fear, choose the first, the road that feels safer. But I would tell you, choose the second. That's where your truth lives. Because the shadowy path, the one that confronts you with your deepest fears and wounds, is also the one that leads you to freedom. And now I ask you, what relationships in your life are asking you to take the easy path? Where are you silencing your voice, draining your energy, or giving up your happiness just to avoid being alone? Think carefully, because this isn't just some motivational quote. It's your life. Your energy is sacred. It's the fuel that gives you life, that allows you to dream, to create, to love. And when you give it to people who don't value it, you're not just betraying yourself. You are extinguishing the divine spark that the universe placed within you. Jung had a word for this: projection. He believed that the people around us are like mirrors. If someone makes you feel small or unworthy, it's not just because of what they say or do. It's because there's still a part of you that believes it's true. A part of you that hasn't yet learned to say, I deserve more than this. And the beauty of it is this: you can change it. You don't need to argue with anyone. You don't need to blame anyone. All you need to do is look inward and ask yourself, what am I projecting? What part of my shadow am I allowing to control this relationship? Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you have a friend who constantly criticizes you. Every time you talk about your dreams, they say, that's impossible, or don't be so naive. It hurts, but you stay in the friendship because, well, you've known each other for years. Jung would tell you, pause, look deeper. Maybe this friend is simply reflecting your own internal voice, that critical part of you that also says, you can't. And as long as you don't face that voice, as long as you don't integrate that shadow, you'll continue attracting people who echo it back to you. But when you confront it, when you say, with full conviction, I can and I will, something incredible happens. That friend either transforms or quietly disappears from your life. The universe takes care of realigning everything around your new belief. So what can you do with all of this? First, recognize the relationships that are draining you. Don't judge them, don't hate them, just observe them. Ask yourself, what is this person showing me about myself? What am I giving up to stay in this relationship? And then do something radical. Start protecting your energy. Say no when you want to say no. Ask for what you need. without guilt. And if a relationship can't handle your authenticity, then maybe it doesn't belong in your life anymore. Jung invites us to let go, not out of resentment, but from a place of deep self-love. Take a moment. Really pause. What relationship came to mind as I was speaking? What did you feel in your chest? Because this isn't theory. This is your reality. Jung didn't want you to stay trapped in relationships that suffocate your spirit. He wanted you to feel whole, to know what it's like to be complete, without needing to be validated by anyone else. So stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to bring this journey to a powerful close. We'll talk about how to use Jung's insights to build a life where love, both for yourself and others, is not a sacrifice, but a reflection of your truth. We've reached the end of this journey, but for you, this is really just the beginning. Up to this point, we've dismantled the idea that to be loved, you must betray who you are. We've explored how your relationships are mirrors of your inner world, all through the lens of Carl Jung. But now, it's time to bring everything together. I want to give you something more than just inspiration. I want to give you the tools to act, because Jung was more than a philosopher. He was a guide. And today, I'm going to show you how to use his wisdom to transform your life, your relationships, and most importantly, the way you love yourself. So take a deep breath. This is going to be intense. It's going to be personal. And if you let it, it could be the very push you need to break free from your past and fully embrace your true self. Jung believed that the goal of life isn't to chase cheap happiness, the kind that depends on likes, applause, or hearing someone say, "I love you." Number. He spoke of something far greater, individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, with all your light, all your darkness, and all your power. And here lies the secret he wanted you to uncover, one that could change your life if you're truly willing to listen. You will never reach the life you long for if you continue to sacrifice yourself for others. Every time you silence your voice to avoid causing discomfort, every time you remain in a relationship that drains your energy, every time you put your dreams on hold so someone else can shine, you're moving further away from the wholeness that Jung believed you were born to experience. So how do you break free from this cycle? It starts with listening. Yes, truly listening. But not to the noise of the world, not to the voices full of expectations and obligations. No, it's about tuning in to that quieter, deeper voice inside you, the one Jung called the unconscious. It doesn't speak in clear words or logical sentences. It speaks through feelings, through subtle instincts, through that tightness in your stomach when something feels off. How many times have you ignored that feeling? How many times have you told yourself, "It's nothing," while deep down, you knew it was everything? Jung would say, stop ignoring that feeling. That sensation is your compass. It's your soul speaking. And today, I invite you to start following it. Picture this. You're in a relationship. It could be romantic, platonic, even professional, and something just doesn't feel right. Maybe you're not being respected. Maybe you're being asked to give more than you can. Or maybe, despite everything, you simply don't feel seen. Your mind tells you to stay. It whispers, "Don't be selfish. This is what love looks like." But your body tells a different story. You feel heavy, exhausted, dimmed. So what do? Most of us keep following the mind. We stay. We endure. We sacrifice again. But Jung invites us to do something radical, something sacred, to follow the unconscious, to trust that inner signal. Because when you do, When you dare to say, "This isn't for me," you don't just walk away from something that hurts. You open the door to something greater. And here's where the power lies. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Letting go is an act of self-love. It's telling your unconscious, "I value myself too much to stay in places where I'm not loved for who I truly am." And when you do this, the universe responds. Jung called it synchronicity, those magical coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. Suddenly, you meet someone who sees you. An opportunity appears that speaks directly to your soul. Or maybe, for the first time in years, you feel peace. Real, deep peace. Why? Because when you align with your truth, the world begins to mirror it back to you. Let me be honest with you, because I know you didn't come here for sugar-coated advice. Look at your life right now. What are you holding on to that no longer belongs to you? A relationship that weighs you down, a fear of being alone, a belief that you don't deserve more. Be brutally honest, because Jung taught us that we can't grow while clinging to the chains that keep us small. I'm not telling you to walk out on everything today. I'm not telling you to burn it all down. I'm asking you to start reflecting, to ask yourself, what might happen if I let this go? What could I gain? Just imagine it for a second. Imagine that freedom, that lightness, that power. Now let's talk about self-love, because this is the root of it all. Jung believed you cannot love anyone more than you love yourself. If you live your life in constant sacrifice, if you stay in places where you feel diminished, you're sending a clear message to your unconscious. I'm not worth much. And like a loyal companion, your unconscious believes you. It takes that message and brings you more of the same. But when you begin to treat yourself with respect, when you start setting boundaries, when you choose relationships that lift you up, everything begins to change. You become a magnet for real love, the kind that doesn't ask you to break yourself into pieces. I want you to do something right now. Close your eyes. Go ahead, just for a moment, and picture a version of yourself that doesn't sacrifice, a version that speaks its truth, that chases its dreams, that surrounds itself with people who cherish it for exactly who it is. Can you see it? That version already lives within you. Jung called it the self, your most authentic being, and it's waiting for you to set it free. So open your eyes and decide. Decide what you're going to do today to step closer to that version of yourself. Because this isn't just theory. This is action. This is transformation. This is your life. And it's time to reclaim it. Carl Jung never intended for his words to be admired from a distance, as if they were just poetic phrases to pin on a wall or repeat at a dinner party. He didn't want you to simply think about his philosophy. He wanted you to live it, to integrate it, to make it part of your everyday experience. And that means stepping into discomfort, into honesty, and into courage. So here's a challenge for you, a real, tangible one, not just something to nod your head at and forget. This week, I want you to pause for a moment and really look at your life. Identify one thing, just one, that you've been sacrificing for the sake of someone else. It could be your time, your peace of mind, your emotional energy, your boundaries, or even your dreams. Maybe it's something you've been giving away so subtly, you don't even notice it anymore. But it's there, and deep down, you feel it. Now here comes the brave part. I want you to change it. Just once. Take a moment to say no, to speak up, to express what you truly need. Or maybe to quietly step away from something or someone that's been draining you for far too long. Whatever it is, Do it not with anger, but with clarity and love for yourself. And then, observe. Watch what happens. At first, the change might seem small. Maybe no one even notices right away. But you will. You'll feel a shift deep within you. A spark. A quiet, but powerful, return to yourself. As you take that step, I want you to hold on to this truth. The world doesn't need a watered-down version of who you are. It doesn't need the version of you that bends, twists, and molds itself to make everyone else comfortable. The world is craving your realness, your full presence, your authenticity, the version of you that knows what it wants, that sets boundaries with love, that dreams boldly, that loves deeply without losing itself in the process. Because when you begin to live from that place, your true self, you don't just transform your own life, you start to light a path for others. It becomes a ripple effect, a domino chain of liberation. Your courage, your voice, your truth, it gives permission for someone else to be courageous too. And little by little, we begin to shift the entire story. We start to change the game, together. So here's my invitation to you, and I hope you really hear it, feel it, not just as words, but as a call to action. If this video moved something inside you, if even a single sentence resonated with your heart, if you found yourself whispering, this is for me, then don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. Tell me what part spoke to you the most. Tell me what you're ready to let go of, what you're finally going to change, or even what fear you're prepared to face. Don't underestimate the power of your words. Your experience might be the lifeline that someone else scrolling through the comments needs to read today. And if you know someone, a friend, a sibling, a parent, someone who's stuck in a cycle of self-sacrifice, who's slowly fading in the name of love or duty, share this video with them, not just for their sake, but for the sake of the collective healing we all deserve. Let's get this message in front of the people who need it most. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Not because I'm chasing numbers, but because I want you to be here, walking alongside us for every next video. Because we're going to keep diving into what it really means to live with intention, to live with soul, to live fully. Every time you comment, every time you share, every time you show up for yourself and this community, you're saying, I'm done with sacrificing who I am to fit in. I'm ready to step into who I was always meant to be. And that is powerful. Thank you for being here, for showing up, for listening, for choosing to be part of something bigger than just a video. Life is full of infinite possibilities, and right now, you have the power to choose how you want to live it. Not in survival mode, not in silence, but in truth, in peace, in love that lifts you, not love that breaks you. As Jung would say, everything you need to be whole already exists within you. So do it. For you. I'll see you in the next video.
God, in His infinite wisdom, finds unique and profound ways to communicate with us. Often, it is not through a clear voice or an obvious message, but rather through a soul connection that resonates deep within our minds and souls. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human unconscious, firmly believed that there is something divine and transformative in the signs we receive through our minds. For Jung, the unconscious was not merely a place where our fears and repressed desires were hidden. It was also a sacred space where the divine seeks to speak to us. Imagine for a moment that your worries, your dreams, your intuitions, and even the chaotic moments in your life are not mere coincidences. Jung taught that every symbol and every emotion appearing in our minds is a message that deserves to be heard. However, We live in an era where ignoring these signs has become the norm. We are constantly distracted by external noise, searching for answers in the wrong places while our souls cry out for attention. But what if we started paying attention? What if we understood that God is using our minds as a channel to guide us toward our best selves? According to Jung, the human mind is a map of two distinct territories, the conscious and the unconscious. In the conscious realm, we find our daily decisions, our routines, and everything we recognize as normal. However, the unconscious is the home of a vaster and more mysterious universe, one where what Jung called the shadow dwells, alongside our intuitions and the archetypes that shape our lives. This unconscious is our connection to something far greater than ourselves, something that transcends our limited understanding. The connection with the divine. Perhaps you have felt that disconnection at some point. The gap between what you do and what you truly desire. That emptiness that, even when surrounded by success or comfort, still seems impossible to fill. Jung maintained that this feeling is a wake-up call. It is your soul, your unconscious, pleading with you to stop and listen. Because behind that emptiness, there is a message, one that only you can decipher if you are willing to face your shadows and explore the deepest corners of your mind. On the journey of life, we all face moments of uncertainty. Often, we cling to what we know, avoiding looking inward for fear of what we might find. But Jung taught us that true growth occurs when we stop fearing our shadows and begin to integrate them. These shadows, those parts of ourselves that we prefer to ignore, contain immense transformative power. By confronting them, we not only discover who we truly are, but also open the door to communication with the divine. Every decision you make, every relationship you choose, is influenced by what resides in your unconscious. Jung said that what we are unable to integrate into our conscious minds manifests externally as fate. This means that if you ignore your fears, your deepest desires, and your intuitions, you will eventually face them in the form of obstacles, failures, or conflicting relationships. But when you choose to listen to yourself, when you allow those internal messages to guide your life, something changes. Your external reality begins to align with your inner truth. Many people wonder why they experience the same patterns over and over again, why they end up in relationships that do not fulfill them, in jobs that do not satisfy them, or in cycles of self-destruction. The answer, according to Jung, lies in the unconscious. These patterns are your mind's way of trying to get your attention, to make you aware of something you are ignoring. They are reminders that until you confront your shadow and reconcile with it, you will continue repeating the same lessons. God, in His infinite patience, uses these very patterns to speak to us. It is not a punishment. It is an invitation to pause, to reflect, and to ask yourself, what do I need to learn from this experience? What part of myself am I ignoring? When you accept this invitation, when you decide to face yourself with courage, you begin to discover a peace and clarity that once seemed unattainable. The unconscious is not merely a hidden reservoir of suppressed thoughts and forgotten memories. It is also the sacred chamber where our greatest treasures reside, our gifts, our creativity, and our divine purpose. For Carl Jung, each of us carries a unique path, a calling deeply inscribed within the very core of our soul. However, to uncover it, we must be willing to listen. And listening does not simply mean paying attention to external words or signs. It requires tuning into that silent voice within us, the one that resonates deep inside, offering guidance, comfort in moments of despair, and the strength to keep moving forward when all seems lost. The process of hearing this inner voice can be challenging, especially in a world that constantly pushes us to seek answers outside ourselves. Yet, Jung insisted that true knowledge is not found in books or in the advice of others. It emerges from an intimate connection with our unconscious. This connection forms a bridge between the human and the divine, a sacred space where God whispers to us through symbols, emotions, and synchronicities. Synchronicity, one of Jung's most fascinating concepts, reveals itself when seemingly unrelated events take on profound meaning in our lives. These moments are not mere coincidences. They are messages, signs from the universe or the divine, affirming that we are on the right path. Perhaps you have experienced thinking about someone only for that person to unexpectedly call you. Or maybe you keep seeing a specific number, phrase, or symbol repeatedly, as if it were following you. These are not random occurrences. They are signals, an invitation to pay closer attention. However, many people dismiss these experiences because they seem too abstract or difficult to rationalize. But Jung reminds us that the soul does not communicate in logical or analytical terms. It speaks in metaphors, images, and feelings. When we ignore these signs, we are not only cutting ourselves off from the divine, but also from our own true essence. This is why learning to recognize and honor moments of synchronicity is crucial. They serve as a reminder that we are not alone, that a higher force is guiding and supporting us along our journey. On this path of self-discovery, we constantly face a formidable challenge, the ego. While the ego is essential for our sense of identity, it can become a major obstacle when it takes control of our lives. It is the ego that resists change, fears the unknown, and seeks to control every aspect of our existence. Jung believed that true fulfillment could only be achieved by transcending the ego. However, this does not mean eliminating it entirely, but rather integrating it, allowing it to become a servant of the soul rather than its master. The ego fears vulnerability because it perceives change as a threat. Yet, in truth, change is the gateway to growth. When we allow our masks to fall, when we are honest with ourselves about our struggles and fears, we create space for the divine to enter our lives. It is in those moments of humility that we find the answers we have been seeking. Jung also introduced the concept of archetypes, universal patterns that dwell within the collective unconscious. These archetypes serve as spiritual guides, helping us navigate the challenges of life. Among them is the wise sage, who urges us to seek truth beyond mere appearances, and the hero, who pushes us to confront our fears and overcome our limitations. Every time you feel the impulse to explore, to question, or to transform, it is an archetype at work in your life. Some may wonder how these seemingly abstract archetypes can have such a profound impact on our lives. The answer lies in the immense power of symbolism. Symbols are the language of the soul, and each archetype represents a symbol of our highest potential. By connecting with them, we not only discover who we are, but also who we can become. However, to truly connect with these archetypes, we must be willing to face our shadows. The shadow, as we mentioned before, is not something to be feared. It is a part of us that longs to be acknowledged, integrated, and healed. When we deny our shadow, it finds ways to manifest, whether through conflicts, illnesses, or destructive patterns. But when we choose to face it with courage, we discover that it is not an enemy, but rather an ally that pushes us toward transformation. The journey toward shadow integration is, at its core, an act of self-love. It means accepting yourself in your entirety, with all your virtues and flaws. It is about understanding that your mistakes do not define you, that your failures are lessons, and that even your fears have a purpose. This level of acceptance not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also with others. Because when you allow yourself to be authentic, you inspire others to do the same. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I begin this journey? The answer lies in introspection. Take time to reflect on your emotions, your patterns, and your dreams. Listen to that inner voice you often ignore. Ask yourself, what is this experience trying to tell me? What can I learn from this situation? And most importantly, have the courage to act accordingly. Because understanding alone is not enough. True change occurs when you take action. When you start listening to your inner voice and aligning your actions with it, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. The right people appear at the right moment. Opportunities align, and situations that once seemed confusing begin to make sense. This is neither magic nor coincidence. It is a result of living in harmony with your inner truth. Jung called this process individuation, which is nothing more than the path toward integrating all parts of yourself. It is a journey where you become who you are truly meant to be, freeing yourself from external expectations and embracing your authenticity. Individuation does not mean perfection. It means wholeness. It is the ability to accept both your light and your shadow, to embrace your strengths and also your vulnerabilities. On this path, trials and challenges are inevitable, but every obstacle you face has a purpose. It is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to strengthen your connection with the divine. Perhaps you have gone through moments where you felt like everything was falling apart. But even in those moments of pain, there is a hidden lesson. Jung believed that suffering is not a punishment, but a tool for awakening our consciousness. It is a call to look inward, to face what we have been avoiding. Suffering, though uncomfortable, can be a powerful teacher. It teaches us to let go of what no longer serves us, to release the expectations we have imposed on ourselves, and to trust that something better awaits us on the other side of pain. When you choose to confront suffering instead of running from it, you discover a strength you never knew you had. And that strength is what allows you to move forward toward a more authentic and meaningful life. Another crucial aspect of the journey toward wholeness is the significance of community. While inner work is deeply personal, it is not meant to be done in isolation. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, an energetic field that connects us with all human beings, past and present, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and even the way we perceive reality. This means that our experiences are never isolated. They are interwoven with those of others in profound and often unseen ways. When you share your truth, when you speak from the depths of your heart with sincerity and vulnerability, you create a sacred space where others feel safe to do the same. In this exchange, you not only find support and inspiration, but you also experience a powerful sense of connection, one that reminds you that you are part of something far greater than yourself. The bonds you cultivate with others do not merely strengthen you. They serve as living proof that life itself is an intricate web of relationships, each one carrying the potential to shape you and be shaped by you. Every interaction, every relationship you nurture becomes an opportunity for transformation, for both your own evolution and the growth of those around you. Even difficult relationships, those that test your patience, challenge your boundaries, or stir deep emotional wounds, hold a profound purpose. They act as mirrors, reflecting the hidden aspects of yourself that require healing, attention, or integration. Rather than resisting these relationships, Jung would encourage you to ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? What part of me is seeking to be acknowledged or transformed? When you embrace each interaction as a lesson rather than a burden, you shift from a mindset of victimhood to one of empowerment. You begin to understand that the people who cross your path, whether they stay for a moment or a lifetime, are part of a divine design, a cosmic blueprint created to help you step into the fullest expression of yourself. This level of awareness does not only transform your relationships, it reshapes your entire outlook on life. The perspective you choose to adopt determines the reality you experience. If you interpret challenges as punishments or failures, you will find yourself trapped in a never-ending cycle of suffering, resentment, and self-doubt. However, if you view those same challenges as opportunities for expansion and self-discovery, you will realize that even the most painful experiences carry hidden wisdom and meaning. Jung reminds us that the mind is an extraordinarily powerful tool, one capable of shaping our reality in ways we often underestimate. When you shift your thoughts, you shift your world. But such transformation does not happen overnight. It demands practice, patience, and an unwavering commitment to your personal growth. It means waking up every morning with the conscious intention to be just a little more aware, a little more authentic, and a little more aligned with both your inner truth and the divine intelligence that flows through all things. It is a journey, a continuous unfolding, where each step brings you closer to a state of wholeness. Wholeness is not a final destination. It is a way of being. It is the deep inner peace that arises when you live in alignment with your truth, when you no longer seek external validation, but instead find contentment in simply being who you are. It is the liberation that comes from shedding the fear of judgment and embracing your most authentic self without apology. And most importantly, it is a sacred connection to the divine that has always existed within you, waiting to be rediscovered. When you choose to live from the space of authenticity and alignment, your entire reality begins to shift. Miracles start to unfold before your eyes. Doors that once seemed permanently closed begin to open effortlessly. The right people, the ones who uplift, inspire, and support your journey, appear at exactly the right moment. The opportunities you have been longing for materialize in the most unexpected ways. None of this is mere coincidence. It is the natural outcome of being in harmony with your purpose, of stepping fully into the life that was always meant for you. It is the manifestation of divine grace in action. As you progress on this path toward fulfillment, you realize that everything you need to transform your life is already within you. It is not about accumulating more external knowledge or seeking validation from the outside world. It is about remembering who you truly are and allowing that truth to guide every aspect of your existence. This process, though challenging, is profoundly liberating. It is like waking up from a long and confusing dream and finally seeing life with clarity. Carl Jung believed that within each of us lies an unlimited potential, an authentic self waiting to be discovered. But to access this self, we must be willing to let go of the illusions and limitations we have built throughout our lives. These limitations are often rooted in fear, the fear of rejection, failure, or even success. However, when you choose to face these fears and act from a place of courage, you realize that they are merely shadows that disappear when illuminated by the light of your truth. A crucial part of this journey involves freeing yourself from beliefs that no longer serve you. Jung stated that many of our beliefs are inherited, absorbed from our family, culture, or society, and often do not reflect our true essence. Ask yourself, what beliefs am I holding that are not mine? What ideas about myself or the world are limiting me? When you begin to question these beliefs, you open the door to new possibilities, to a way of living that aligns with who you truly are. Introspection, the practice of looking within, is a powerful tool for this kind of work. Take time each day to sit in silence, to listen to your inner voice, and to reflect on your thoughts and emotions. You do not need to have all the answers immediately. The simple act of paying attention to what is happening within you is a step toward transformation. Often, the answers you seek will come in unexpected ways. Perhaps in a dream, an intuition, or even a seemingly casual conversation. Jung also emphasized the importance of dreams as a channel of communication between the conscious and the unconscious. Dreams are not just random images. They are symbolic messages from your soul, designed to help you understand aspects of yourself and your life that need attention. If you start paying attention to your dreams, writing them down and reflecting on them, you will discover a world of wisdom that is always available to you. The process of interpreting your dreams does not require expertise. It is enough to observe the emotions, symbols, and stories that emerge. Ask yourself, what is this dream trying to tell me? What emotions does it evoke? How can I apply its message to my life? By doing this, you will strengthen your connection with your subconscious and, consequently, with the divine. On this journey toward authenticity, it is essential to remember that you are not alone. Although inner work is deeply personal, there are always guides, teachers, and companions along the way who are there to support you. Sometimes, these guides appear in the form of people, books, or even videos like this one. Other times, they arrive as intuitions or moments of clarity that seem to emerge from nowhere. But in reality, these moments are manifestations of divine grace, reminding you that you are being guided and supported at all times. According to Jung, divine grace is not something we must seek outside ourselves. It is an energy present in every moment of our lives, a force that connects us to something greater than ourselves. When you allow this grace to flow through you, you begin to see life from a completely different perspective. Challenges no longer feel like punishments, but rather opportunities for growth. Difficult relationships become mirrors reflecting what you need to heal, and moments of uncertainty transform into portals leading to new possibilities. The key to allowing this grace to flow is trust. Trusting that everything happening in your life has a purpose, even if you cannot see it at the moment. Trust that you are being guided towards something better, even when the path seems dark or uncertain. And above all, trust that within you lies a force, a light that can never be extinguished. When you choose to live from this trust, something incredible happens. Your life becomes filled with meaning. Every day, every interaction, and every experience turns into an opportunity to learn, grow, and share your light with the world. And in doing so, you not only transform your own life, but also inspire others to do the same. This is the power of living in alignment with your truth. It is a power that not only reshapes your reality, but also has the potential to transform the world around you. Because when you choose to be authentic, when you allow the divine to express itself through you, you become a beacon of light for others. And in a world that often feels full of darkness, that light is more necessary than ever. As you move forward on this journey of self-discovery, you begin to realize that every step you take not only transforms your life, but also impacts those around you. Carl Jung taught us that personal growth is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of service to the world. When you choose to live in alignment with your truth, when you allow divine light to shine through you, you become an inspiration for others. Your authenticity and your connection to the divine have the power to illuminate the path for those who, just like you once did, are searching for their way. Think about the impact you can have by sharing your story, by showing the world that it is possible to live from a place of fulfillment and connection. Every time you choose to speak from the heart, every time you act from your truth, you are creating a space for others to do the same. It is a ripple effect that starts with you but has the potential to reach countless people. At this moment, I invite you to reflect. What can you do today to connect more deeply with your truth? What steps can you take to integrate the lessons you have learned? And most importantly, how can you share that light with the world? Remember, it is not about perfection, but about intention. Every small gesture, every sincere word, and every authentic action has the power to transform lives, starting with your own. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to take one more step. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these words, someone who is looking for a sign, a guide, or a spark of inspiration. Your action can not only be the beginning of a transformation for that person, but also help this message reach more hearts around the world. Let me know in the comments which part of this message touched your soul. Share your reflections, your experiences, and your insights. Every comment, every interaction is an opportunity to build a community of people committed to their authenticity, growth, and divine connection. Your words have the power to inspire others, to touch lives, and to create an impact far beyond what you can imagine.